Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here's your detailed weather forecast update for Friday the 10th of October 2025. There's lots of thunderstorms on the forecast tonight, particularly through central Queensland, and a wildcard forecast for the northeast of New South Wales. It's going to continue with a storm outbreak forecast for Saturday and also for Sunday, potentially in towards southeast Queensland. We've got rainfall and thunderstorms across a wide swath of northern Australia, and we've also got plenty of rainfall on the long-range signals as well. All the details on these weather events, plus a whole lot more coming up in today's weather forecast update. If you're brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things this morning. I'm going to start things off with central Queensland, but I'll get to northern New South Wales in just a few minutes. You don't want to miss that. So the rainfall and thunder forecast from the eastward wave has these thunderstorms developing early on in the afternoon. After about 2 or 3 o'clock, we're expecting these thunderstorms to really get themselves going, with a bit of a shift compared to yesterday's forecast. So we're now looking at these thunderstorms potentially being a little bit further south than what they were initially forecast to be, particularly south of Roma down to St. George. But I do still believe that we're going to see some strong but very isolated thunderstorm activity between Augathella and Injune, and then north to Tambo between Rolleston. So in this pocket here, we're likely to see some strong thunderstorm activity, and the reason for that is it's just not going to get hot enough down around St. George and Thallon. We're looking at daytime temperatures between 32 to 34 degrees, and we need a very significant amount of heat to really break through the cap, which is kind of the threshold for these thunderstorms to break out and really develop, and that is kind of sitting at a temperature of about 36 to 37 degrees today. In fact, it probably could be a little bit higher, and that's why thunderstorms are forecast too, even though we're not expecting a widespread outbreak north of Roma and Charleville. Once they do get themselves going, especially earlier on in the afternoon, they're likely to become very strong indeed. Now, we've got some pretty moist air right through the environment, but we don't have a dry slot, which is also kind of an interesting factor here with these thunderstorms, particularly further south, down closer to the New South Wales-Queensland border, like I said, around St. George and Thallon, which just makes me scratch my head a little bit as to why the forecast models are now suddenly calling for good storms in this area here when the conditions aren't necessarily perfect for them. The convective forecast modelling really does have some strong thunderstorm activity though around Charleville, Augathella, Injune and Roma, and particularly further north of Augathella and Injune. I reckon we're going to see some solid thunderstorm activity in this pocket here. Roma and Charleville also had a good chance of seeing thunderstorm activity, with probably about a 15 to 20% chance of seeing a severe thunderstorm blow over either Charleville or Roma. The chances do increase a little bit closer towards Roma, but the chances again down to the New South Wales and the Queensland border. Whilst all the forecast models are now jumping on this bandwagon of thunderstorms down there, I just don't really get it. I do believe that thunderstorms will develop in this part of Queensland, but they're not likely to be as strong as what they're going to be in this part of Queensland up here into the more central regions of the state. Nonetheless, widespread thunderstorm activity is most certainly expected. It will be a brief outbreak between 1 o'clock out to about 5 o'clock. Once those temperatures do begin to drop, thunderstorms are going to collapse very, very quickly, and we're not expecting thunderstorms to fire up later on into the night as well. These are going to be very dry thunderstorms, so this is not the news that Queensland wanted to be hearing. A lot of these places out here really desperate for rainfall, and in fact I'm seeing these sad comments in my comment section saying we're going to have to think about cutting water out soon, and it really does break my heart to be able to read those comments at this time of the year when the rainfall is meant to be coming through thick and fast. But at this point in time, don't expect any rainfall. If any does fall, consider it a bonus. Rainfall is going to be very, very hit and miss with these thunderstorms, just considering the fact that we are talking about these thunderstorms in a much drier environment. These cloud bases are going to be quite high, and as such we're not expecting thunderstorms to carry absurd amounts of precipitation with them. Now to the northeast of New South Wales, this is a wild card, let me tell you. Convective available potential energy is propping up a thunderstorm outbreak tonight. We're looking at values here between 2,000 to 3,000 earlier on in the afternoon. Very, very healthy indeed, and it looks like we could get some very strong thunderstorm activity out of this if we do see thunderstorms develop. The places to watch is going to be north of Kempsey up to Coffs Harbour and Grafton. We're expecting some strong thunderstorms in this vicinity here. We've got the moisture coming off the Tasman Sea here, or the southern parts of the Coral Sea, which will stream into the coastline, not to mention the hot air that's going to come over the mountain ranges and the central tablelands, and that is going to present a very good environment for thunderstorms. Thunderstorms are expected to be here and there from about 2 o'clock onwards or so. They're really going to begin to develop at about 3 or 4 o'clock, and we are looking at the chance of some isolated severe thunderstorm activity. Conditions look healthy for thunderstorms in this part of New South Wales. They're going to be quite isolated, and that's why the convective forecast modelling is kind of the only forecast model that's giving us a bit of an idea as to what we are looking at here. But I do reckon we're going to see maybe half a dozen thunderstorms develop later this afternoon into early this evening around Coffs Harbour and Kempsey, and whatever storms do develop with this convective available potential energy on the forecast, they're likely to become very strong very, very quickly. So if you live around Coffs Harbour, Nambucca Heads, Kempsey, even down to Port Macquarie and then north to Grafton and Yamba, I would say Lismore is most likely to dodge these thunderstorms here. I'm not really foreseeing thunderstorms thunderstorms north of Grafton or Yammer at this point in time, but definitely a day to watch. Definitely keep your eyes on the skies and keep your eyes on the radar as well to see if thunderstorms do develop in your area. This is something that's recently come onto the forecast. It really kind of started taking my interest on Wednesday, and it's really become a bit of a mainstream forecast from yesterday, but I definitely reckon we will see some solid thunderstorm activity later this afternoon into this evening around Coffs Harbour and Kempsey at this point in time. Interesting stuff, that's for sure. Now, tomorrow will bring a risk of thunderstorms as well to parts of central Queensland and also into the northeast of New South Wales. Another solid chance of strong thunderstorms around Kempsey, Coffs Harbour and Grafton. The strongest thunderstorms tomorrow will be further inland, north of Injune up to Rolleston, and then over towards the west out to Tambo, Augathella, Yarraka and Addervale. Some strong thunderstorm activity is possible, but again, it's not looking too healthy. It's going to be a dry environment, so high cloud basis once again, and not much rainfall expected to come through from these thunderstorms. Chances will increase a little bit later on into the night for heavier rainfall accumulations. We may see 1 or 2 thunderstorms develop around Toowoomba and Ipswich. They're unlikely to go into the Brisbane city area, but we may see a 1 or 2 thunderstorms develop into the southeast corner of Queensland at this point in time. Thunderstorms will persist late on to the night. We're expecting these thunderstorms to upscale into large lines of squally storms after about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and then they'll go on to impact locations towards the west and the south of Rolleston and Emerald. We're then expecting thunderstorms to develop in quite a significant fashion by the looks of things on Sunday afternoon. The forecast remaining very consistent now since Wednesday of this week, and we're expecting a line of thunderstorms to extend between Yarraka and Addervale out in central Queensland, even pushing out towards southwestern Queensland, with a chance of thunderstorms expected out around Thargomindah, Moomba in South Australia, Birdsville, Badori, Boulia, and then up towards Mount Isa. I'll talk about later on in the forecast update, but have a look at this. Good thunderstorms now in the forecast just towards the west of Brisbane. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Sunday is going to bring widespread thunderstorms to Brisbane or the Gold Coast, and even to the Sunshine Coast for that matter, unfortunately, but definitely over the ranges towards the west of Brisbane, so Ipswich, even Beaudesert, Boonah, Toowoomba especially, then up towards Kingaroy, Dalby, Chinchilla, those sort of locations. Then, of course, Roma, Injune, Taroom, Rolleston, Tambo, Augathella, Charleville, your usual spots, all looking at a thunderstorm chance on Sunday afternoon and evening, and some of these thunderstorms could be quite strong indeed, propped up by, again, some pretty impressive convective available potential energy values, so instability is going to be high. Severe thunderstorms are definitely a hot chance of developing. Great moisture surging in from the Coral Sea, that's for sure, and this will likely give way to the conditions necessary for these thunderstorms to develop. Again, good mid-level humidity values as well, and if we do just pick a random spot and have a look at a sounding here, you can see that we don't, again, have that dry slot, which means we're likely going to be looking at some pretty messy thunderstorms, and as such, severe thunderstorms not likely to be a main concern on Sunday, especially the further inland you get. That dry slot does become a little bit more available around the Brisbane area on Sunday into the mid-levels, but still a healthy forecast for thunderstorms on Sunday, and definitely our best chance of seeing thunderstorms over the next couple of days into southeast Queensland. Then on Monday, we are looking at, again, another thunderstorm outbreak propped up by convective available potential energy into the southeast corner of Queensland. Just having a look at this snapshot here from the forecast models. This is something that we see every now and then, and we can get some absolutely wild storms out of it, particularly around Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So Monday, again, will be a day to watch around Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and we may see some very late afternoon sea breeze thunderstorms develop around the Gold Coast particularly, and this could give way to some strong thunderstorm activity, that's for sure. Good thunderstorm potential also on the Capricorn coastline and into the Wide Bay Burnett forecast district. Thunderstorms also extending further out around Emerald, Claremont and Jericho. Thunderstorm potential out there always remains pretty high at this time of the year, and again, with good convective available potential energy in the atmosphere, we may see some strong thunderstorms once again on Monday in this part of Queensland. Thunderstorms will then spread further north, and they'll make their way up in towards south parts of North Queensland. We're expecting a bumper outbreak through parts of northern Queensland on Tuesday the 14th of October. More thunderstorms expected out into southwestern Queensland on Wednesday, and then thunderstorms persisting into early Thursday and Friday the 16th and 17th of October respectively, but definitely well and truly in that high energy period now, and we're expecting thunderstorms for the next week or so through Queensland and also parts of New South Wales. Strong thunderstorm activity at that as well, and particularly on Tuesday for parts of northern Queensland, we may see some wet thunderstorms too, which could present the risk of some heavy rainfall accumulations and some tropical downpours. That will be good to see as well. Sunday also expecting to be a cracker day around areas such as Mount Isa, Cloncurry into the northwest of Queensland and the Gulf Country. Definitely some strong thunderstorms expected down there. We're also looking at some pretty strong thunderstorm activity on Saturday into the Northern Territory. We may see some pretty decent outbreaks right through the day, Saturday into Sunday night, and then through Sunday through a wide swathe of the Central Northern Territory. So locations such as Willaroo, Tennant Creeks, Elliot, Wave Hill, and then into the northwest of the NT could also see some pretty strong thunderstorm activity, and then around the Gregory area into northwestern Queensland. Showers also expected to be quite widespread throughout northern Queensland as well over the next 14 days. You can see whilst rainfall accumulations aren't anything too crazy, particularly over the next week. Falls between 50 to 100 millimeters are possible through the Cassowary Coast and the Daintree rainforest, and then pushing that a little bit further out into next week as well. You can see mid to late October will also continue to bring those showers through parts of northern Queensland. The rainfall not going anywhere anytime soon. But have a look at this through the Northern Territory, Western Australia especially. It is a wet 2-week forecast. I mean, have a look at this. Central Australia, this is something we would normally be seeing in February or March with a monsoonal burst. This is some heavy rainfall that's coming through in a lot of locations, expecting heaps of rainfall over the next 14 days. Very, very good to see, that's for sure. Particularly into the Northern Territory, they've been struggling for rainfall, especially last year's wet season was a very, very slow one to start. So to see this one shaping up to be what is looking like quite an active one, it definitely is looking quite solid, that's for sure. So very, very good to see for the Northern Territory, where we've got heaps of thunderstorms on the forecast. And I mean, if I just play this through day by day, you can see today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, especially Monday, Tuesday, we're expecting good thunderstorm activity throughout the Northern Territory. Wednesday, a little bit drier through parts of the Northern Territory into Western Australia, a little bit less storm activity is expected. And then once again, Thursday and Friday, thunderstorm activity is still expected to be quite widespread before after about the 18th of October, it becomes a bit more of a WA exclusive, and that's where the heat is really going to be on for the Northern Territory. We're well and truly in that build-up. You can hear the excitement in my voice, and if you were talking to anyone in Northern Australia, you can hear the excitement in their voices as well. Minus this heat and minus this humidity, everything is going along as we would expect it and as we would like to see it. The heat and the humidity, of course, are killer up there, but again, it is a sign of good rainfall to come, and that is what a lot of locations are really looking out for at this point in time. I'm still not seeing any tropical signals on the long-range forecast, but interestingly, the NWS, which is a National Weather Service over in the United States, has just declared a La Niña. That's an unofficial report that I've seen on multiple weather pages over in the United States, but the National Weather Service has apparently declared a La Niña. Now, whether the Bureau of Meteorology is going to follow suit and declare a La Niña as well will be interesting to see, but we're already seeing a massive surge of warm sea temperatures piling on into the Coral Sea. The Gulf of Carpentaria remaining slightly below average at this point in time, but I mean, these sea temperatures are really on the boil now across northern parts of WA, above 30 degrees offshore from WA, and into the Coral Sea of offshore from Queensland, pushing 27, 28 degrees, still far above average for this time of the year, and reminiscent of what you would normally see in a La Niña climate driver period. So it'll be interesting to see if the bomb pulls the trigger. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but bomb have some pretty ironclad restrictions onto whether or not they can call a La Niña. I believe it's got to be below that 0.8 threshold for a 2-month period, which it hasn't been just yet. It's looking likely that that's going to happen, but if we do see a La Niña, not much is going to change. It's kind of with the cool neutral that we've had on the forecast for the last couple of weeks, it really won't change whether or not the amount of rainfall that comes through. Maybe a slight increase because a La Niña would obviously be a little bit stronger than a cool neutral, but it doesn't change the forecast much, and I imagine La Niña will get thrown around as a clicky title that people can use to just generate clicks and subscribers to their weather page. So whilst the La Niña hasn't officially been declared yet, it is possible, but it's not likely to change the weather the weather forecast in a very significant capacity at this point in time. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's forecast update. I do hope all of your questions over in New South Wales and Queensland have been answered. Buckled up, thunderstorms already beginning towards the west of Windora now. You can see them just beginning to fire up now. It is going to be a long day for a lot of people. It's going to be a long outbreak as well the next couple of days for thunderstorms, especially on the Queensland side of things. Stay safe. If you've got any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Check out the Facebook page as well for future updates. And of course, a massive shout out and thank you to the channel sponsors and Facebook supporters. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them, and of course, as always, their support is massively appreciated. But that is all from me today. Have a great Friday, and I'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.